Welcome, everyone, to Gold Chat Live and happy mid-year. I feel like I should have confetti or something. I feel like we all need like massive gold stars for making it this far. Yeah, I know like mid-year is technically in a few days, but we're going to celebrate as we do all the time, because every day, every week, every month, every mid-year is the opportunity to reassess, look at the life we want, and make plans to make it happen. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Debra Eckerling. I'm the author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, and founder of the Deb Method, which is my system for goal setting simplified. And every week I lead the Goal Chat Twitter chat on Sunday nights. And then on Mondays, I bring in awesome people, usually from different parts of my life, as is the case today, to like hang out. Think of it as virtual happy hour, because if we were in real life, if we were in person, this is what happens, right? You get together with your friends and your friends meet your friends. And so this is the way I get to introduce you to the cool people I know, and vice versa. Anyway, I am so excited for our happy mid-year party. I have amazing people, again, from different parts of my life. We have Denny Brown, who's a newer friend. I think you're of the group. Actually, no, I think Jeff's my newest friend from the group. But Denny leads the Connect Ottawa networking events. So every few weeks on Tuesday mornings, I become an honorary Canadian and hang out with Denny and his crew. And I'm thrilled that you could join us today. And so you can, and you have a new bundle of joy, but I don't want to like spoiler alert because we don't get to see the QD5. That's okay. But really happy you could join us. And Thank you. Also have Elaine Hall. Now, Elaine, I've known the longest because I did a piece on her in the Miracle Project a few years ago, and we were like immediate kinship. And we haven't been able to run into each other at Unplugged Meditation lately. So I guess I had to make this happen. So Elaine, always lovely to see you. And Jeff and I were on a panel together for BookFest a few months ago, and it feels like a million years. And I know probably more so for you, but anyway, it's the middle of the year. We made it. I'm excited. But before we chat a little bit more, I would love it for you all to introduce yourselves better, because basically all I just said was, here are 3 cool people. Let's learn more. So why don't we go and start with you, Denny? Please introduce yourself. Introduce yourself, and then lead with end with one fact very few people know about you.
Oh, okay. I'm Denny Brown from Ramsay Brown Media. We help you define, refine, and tell your story on and offline. I'm a marketer at heart, and I love creating your marketing funnel to get your clients from where they are to where they need to be, which is a sale or a client or a call. So that's what I do. I also help out with a business networking company, Connect Ottawa Business People, as you mentioned before. In that one, Bernie Frensgrote, Margaret Ann Davis, and I help connect Ottawa business entrepreneurs and the world, really, because this is a digital age now. Deborah's been to a few of our meetings, and we try to train business entrepreneurs to be a little bit better each day. One fact that nobody knows about me, well, I'm a very open book. I've lost a child a few years ago. I was in the military, and I still am in the military as a reservist now. And one thing people don't know about me is long story short, mother was into drug and alcohol, and we traveled across Canada to stay ahead of the law.
Wow, you got me.
Like way too much information. You were going to say something, Jeff?
I just said he has me beat. That's pretty amazing.
The story pales in comparison to many other people, and one of the few things that I've learned in life is there's always a sadder story, but we all share in pain.
Wow. Well, way to bring down the mood, Denny. But and this is really the point. I mean, look at Denny. Would you? And as I've expressed before, I am like beyond sorry for your loss. But you meet Denny, would you think that he's had as much trauma as he's had? But it's what we take with our pain. And you created a company with your wife, but I don't want to digress. We'll digress more later. Elaine, you look awesome. Really good to see you in real fake life. Will you please introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Elaine Hall and really excited to be here. I work in the entertainment industry as a TV and acting coach and consultant. I also founded a theater and film program for children, teens, and adults on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, neurodiverse, and and really for individuals with disabilities, it's fully inclusive. We include those with and without disabilities, and create original musicals that we perform on some of the best stages. And Deb came and played with us one day. It was so much fun. And I'm also a co-founder of an organization, a new organization called 1 in 4, that is really changing the way Hollywood represents, hires, and perceives disabilities. So I was going to say 2 things that people don't know about me. One was I was a former dancer, professional dancer, and I portrayed Oscar the Grouch in Sesame Street Live.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was, wow. It was really fun. I had to have a really strong arm because it was a puppet. I was a puppeteer, and it was a blast. Something else that you may not know is I am now have outed myself as neurodiverse myself in the way that my brain processes information and the way that I perceive the world. Just heard it here, yeah.
Really? Interesting. So, and how was this just, were you surprised? How did you figure that out? Or was it your own?
I have lots of friends that are on the spectrum, and they all were always telling me that I was on the spectrum. And I knew that I wasn't, because I respect the challenges of people on the spectrum profoundly. And I but I always felt very comfortable around, I'm kind of a social introvert. I love my friends, and I also didn't suffer during the pandemic at all. And now that there's this broad umbrella of neurodiversity and just processing differences in the way I'm in the world and the way that I perceive the world and the world experiences me, I have to realize that my friends on the spectrum were correct, and that I do have a lot of qualities, and I am embracing it wholeheartedly. And I think that's why I've been able to be part of both worlds, the neurotypical and neurodiverse world.
Well, they are both so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Well, so I'm swapping you out for Jeff, and I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. So if you want to mute when you're not talking so we get less of that, that would be awesome. And if it's still gurgly, then we know that it is me. So Jeff, I feel like saying, how the heck are you? But I've seen you
pretty well
on social media, so I know.
All things considered, yeah. So a little bit about me. I am a writer. I have 2 novels out in the world, YA post-apocalyptic novels set in LA, in a world where everybody over the age of 17 has died. And ironically, you'll see when I talk about some of my next facts, it was by a disease that only killed grown-ups and left kids unscathed.
This is a little eerie.
It is a little eerie, and we'll talk about that in a second. I also own my own PR agency called Sweat & Co. We are an ad agency that works primarily with, a PR agency that works primarily with ad agencies. So it's kind of a funny little niche, but it means that I get to work with some of the most creative people in the business, and get to advise them on how to be better agencies. couple of facts about me. The one that I used to always say, which I still think is interesting, so I'm going to say it, is that I worked my way through college as a carpenter and decided that wasn't a career for me after I got shot in the head with a nail gun. So it did not penetrate. It hit me this way, but it still hurt like hell. I had a concussion for like 3 days. So that was sort of around the time that I thought maybe I didn't have a lot of longevity in that career and thought it might be a good time to get out. And the most recent thing that people don't know is that, well, Deb does because she got a front row seat, is that I was in the hospital for almost 2 months with COVID. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and I'm just happy to be here. So when I say that the book is kind of ironic and eerie that this disease affected adults, we had it come through our house, and my kids and everyone were fine, but I was the one who ended up going to the hospital. So yeah, so that has, when Deb talks about how we talked months ago and it seems like forever, it really does seem like a different life. So this is me in kind of a rebirth moment for me.
Well, and I am so thrilled that you came out of it, obviously. But I remember when the first post you did that said that you were going to the hospital to get checked out, you were sure you were fine, but better to be something like that. And then the next thing I knew, I was seeing the daily post from your wife.
Yep. Yeah, it happened so quickly. It was, I kind of had the sniffles about a week before, and it started to progress, but just barely. I mean, it wasn't until just a few days before that we really thought it was something urgent. I started getting a fever, but even that could have been something else. I was convinced it was a cold because we really hadn't left the house. We had been under really strict quarantine. And it turns out that the only 2 times I went out was to go to a grocery store and a record store with my son. And it was the record store, we think, that got us sick. So, and we were, because I guess because you're all close quarters and, you know, flipping through vinyl and stuff like that. But it happened really, really quickly. The analogy I use is it's kind of like a waterfall scene in the movies when you're rafting down the river and everything's all like mellow and quiet, and you turn around the bend and all of a sudden there's this roaring waterfall ahead of you and it's too steep and too fast to get out. That's what it was like. By the time I realized that I was really sick, it was almost too late. I entered the hospital and had severe acute respiratory distress. My lungs were failing. My organs were on the verge of failing, and they admitted me within minutes, and within probably within less than 48 hours, I was intubated and put into a medical coma.
Well, I'm glad it was almost.
Almost. It's a really important word.
Mm-hmm. And it's not to, of course, not to belittle all of your trauma. I think over the last year, everybody has had different levels of not just trauma, but celebration. It's really been a year of ups and downs. And that's why I think when I was thinking, okay, it's mid-year, who do I get to celebrate the mid-year? And it's really like, you're like, all three of you are really good champions of, like I said, making lemonade. Curves get thrown at you and you use it for advocacy or to create, right? So thank goodness, before we go to the move on part, I just want to know, and I'm sure I'm going to get very different levels from all of you. What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned over the last year? What is the biggest life lesson? And since yours is probably going to be the most serious, Jeff, let's start with you on this one.
I mean, I think it's got to be don't take anything for granted. I think for me, I have 3 kids at home. It has been a hard year, like it was for everyone else, to have all of us in the room. And there's been, a million things prior to this could have been my most traumatic thing that had happened in a year, and I would have felt pretty comfortable with that. But the reality is I'm so grateful that I had them at home and that we've had that time together. And it's been amazing to come back and to spend that time with them. I think it's also just for me, just renewed my love for writing, for my work, all those kinds of things. I've thrown myself back in that in a way that I think has been healthier and more effective ultimately.
Nice. And Elaine, how about you?
There's so many things. I realized my resiliency, and we pivoted. I have a musical theater and TV and film program where we were live. Had classes every day with over 100 participants, and we were working on an original musical that we were going to be performing. We're already rehearsing it. We were going to be performing at the Wallace in a month and a half. And within a week, we pivoted to classes online, virtual, and wrote an original musical and continued rehearsing it. We had to rewrite it for virtual, but continued to rehearse it and created a virtual product that then went on to Broadway licensing and became, this entity in itself. And so I learned that I can pivot. I learned that I can not take no for an answer, that I know how to motivate and lead in a way that I really didn't know I did before, because we turned this whole, ship around very quickly. And the most important thing for me was to be of service to my families and students, and for them not to be alone in their anxiety. And I was able to place my own anxiety aside, and that when I was on Zoom, I was there and present, and found resources in myself that I could bring out in others. So I felt very, very blessed with that. I also really learned how little I need to be happy. And I did meditation online and took yoga online and all the things that I love doing, dance classes, and being more time with my husband and my son. I have a son with a non-speaking son with autism. And I was really able to retreat in a way that will bring me forward and has already brought me forward. So, yeah, it's actually been an extraordinary year for me with all the challenges. Working 10 and 12-hour days on Zoom because we had to pivot everything. We're writing a whole new original musical that is going to be performed on Zoom. So just being open to I'm from California, so being open to the universe and letting myself be infused with light and gifts, and recognizing a lot of gratitude, a lot of gratitude.
Nice. Well, I think you are the queen of the pivot. I mean, you basically created a whole system based on the needs of your son. I mean, isn't that really how the Miracle Project came about and everything that you do?
Yeah, exactly. I was a TV and film acting coach and consultant, script consultant, and I adopted a little boy from Russia. And when he came to me, he spun around in circles and stared at his hand for hours at a time and banged his head and tantrumed and all those kinds of things. And what I found, traditional therapies didn't work for him. So what I did was I joined his world. I just became part of his world. And when he would spin, I'd spin with him. We'd make it ring around the rosies, and he would flap. And you guys want to flap? It's fun. We can flap. We flapped together and became birds. And people thought I was kind of, that I was enabling his autism. But all I knew was when I joined his world, he connected to me. And what does any mom want but that connection? So I continued to do it, and I learned everything I could about autism. And then I started training other people to help me, because I realized if I joined his world an hour a day, we'd connect an hour. And if I joined him 2 hours a day, we'd connect for 2 hours. So I started to do trades with my actor friends, or I would trade them how to get do well on an audition in exchange for them learning what I was learning. And I created a methodology that's uses the arts to reach seemingly unreachable children, teens, young adults. And now my son is non-speaking, but he's spoken using his device, his iPad at the UN. And I've written a book. It's called Now I See the Moon, about our journey together. People are talking about making it into a movie. And Jeff, I was thinking how your story would make a great.
Well, let's talk for sure.
Well, I don't, I'm
just kidding.
But yeah, we should talk to someone, because I just see it, it's apocalyptic and profound. I mean, 17-year-olds and under have a lot of answers that we have limitations on,
I agree, by the way. I modeled it after my own kids, and one thing that I truly believe is that, like, they're just incredibly competent and so much smarter and sort of more empathetic than we ever give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
And my kind of conclusion after writing this was that, it's sort of, because there was sort of a Lord of the Flies kind of angle, but for me, my conclusion was sort of the opposite of the Lord of the Flies, which is that I think if it were left up to the kids, we would be in good hands.
I agree. I so agree. I mean, my students on the spectrum, neurodiverse students, clients, and when I give presentations, I find that those who perceive the world differently can offer healing, and that's kind of my mission. And I think that's the possibilities that
Absolutely.
The younger generation really does know the answer. Those who are neurodiverse know the answer, and we just all need to listen.
That's great.
Nice. And isn't the world lucky that people like you all are in the world to make a difference, to help? Denny, you left and returned. I thank you. So what has, I want you to go back to why you started your company, because we didn't get to hear that story, but also please share what your biggest takeaway was over the last year.
So the company was started, in essence, because I was retiring from the military eventually, and my wife had PTSD from being a paramedic with the city, and she knew she was never going back. The case was too severe. So we found that she had a passion for social media and marketing, and I had, being a public affairs officer in the military, I was social media communication stratcom. And so the two of us just went, it makes sense to create a company that helps people with communication and use it as a retirement vehicle for us. I mean, you can't say no to a win-win. You have to embrace it with two hands and carry forth. Initially, we started it in 2017, and it was just supposed to be a side project at first. And in 2019, I retired. I'd had kind of enough with the military and moving around and all of the gripes that most military families have. And we found our forever home here, and we decided, let's try and make this a go. And we've been moving along very slowly every day for the past year. So my lesson that I've learned over the year is change doesn't happen instantaneously. Change is a percentage increase every day until you hit the point of no return, and then it becomes a rocket. But if you don't stick with it, and if you don't keep making the change every day, it takes longer and longer for it to get off the ground.
Which, is one thing that I say a lot. Even if you spend your 15 minutes a few days a week, it doesn't seem like a lot. But if you dedicate it, if you know what you want and you build it, it gets built. I love how you called it your forever home, because isn't that usually what we say with puppies?
Puppies, adopted children, lots of things. We try to say, this is your forever home. And when we found this place, we knew we found it for my daughter. She was alive, and we knew when we got in there that this was going to be the place that we would stick with for the end of her time, and then carry on to the end of our times.
Nice. So it's got the good memories and the painful ones.
Absolutely. She passed away here in the house, so very painful memory. But at the same time, the amount of joy and light she brought into the world was all relatively within these walls. And you can't have happiness without sadness. It's an impossibility. It's if you have happiness without sadness, it becomes bland, and if you have sadness without happiness, it becomes despair. So the two of them are combined together, same sides of the same coin, or different sides of the same coin, and that you need to experience them both to be able to understand the depths and the heights of both.
Very, very good and poignant point. And your wife too. How's she doing?
Kathleen is doing fairly well. She's still recovering, but she has found a passion project that she's working on, and I can see the joy in her eyes every couple of days, and or the frustration of working on a project that's not moving. I think we've all kind of been there and done that, and it's a healing process, but it's a working process.
And so, do you have a passion project that you or is that Connect Ottawa?
Connect Ottawa is a serendipity that we had of. I met through a variety of different interactions these two people and decided to join forces with them because I'm a technology person at the same time. And I love helping people. So it started off as helping and it eventually worked its way into a business. I'd say boo to that one.
No, absolutely not. That's good.
But my passion project right now is Alicia's Little World. You know Alicia Myronek, and
Yes.
I'm working on that passion project right now. So
And why don't I know it? But why don't you tell other people?
fair enough. Alicia Myronek has coined a phrase called Myrony, my irony, and it's the serendipity in motion. So the little interconnections that we have between us create more connections and create a systematic pattern that we can see and feel and follow to be our better selves. If I could sum it up in a nutshell, it's a lot more than that, but that's the basics of it.
Oh, I think you did a very nice job of it, and I will certainly tag her so she can, when I do the replay, to see if she wants to add to it. So, Elaine, you have a new passion project you started mentioning before, the 1 in 4. Is that a passion project or is it a product project?
That is a passion project, and I'm thank you. I just have to comment, just Denny, just hearing how supportive and beautiful your relationship is with your wife is incredibly moving and inspiring. It's beautiful.
I want to thank you with that, but it took a lot of work at the beginning, and I'll tell you one funny story. At the very beginning, I had this really bad idiosyncratic affliction of my face where I would smirk during an argument. There is nothing more infuriating to the other person of the argument when you are smirking at them. And I didn't know I was doing this, so my wife would get furious, and I wouldn't know why, because we would be communicating, at least I thought we were communicating. So it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of communication, and it took a lot of effort, and we had to see a counselor to be able to speak the same language. So thank you so much for that, Elaine, but it was a lot of work.
Well, that's it. I mean, good relationships take work. I think people buy into the happily ever after, and I think it's really about one day at a time, especially, over COVID, being in the same room with somebody, even with Netflix and Amazon and Apple, but being willing to do that work, when you find someone who's willing to be on the journey, which I feel grateful. My husband, Jeff, is a marriage and family therapist, and but we have to work at it. So it's great when you get to the other side, But yes, my newest passion project is I've got two, but one is I co-founded an organization called One in Four, which is a group of Hollywood insiders that have disabilities and are really transforming the way that the media hires and presents and content on disability. I mean, like I love to say, in every single film or commercial, just present people with disabilities as part of the fabric of life, rather than a movie about disability, or where the person with a disability is the hero or the pity person or the villain. But no, just have someone drinking a milkshake at McDonald's that happens to use a wheelchair, or have a crowd in La La Land, and part of the crowd are people with Down syndrome or autistic, or just make the invisible visible. And we're really having a lot of success. I just finished working on a new TV series that will be coming out maybe in October, but on Amazon. It stars 3 adults on the spectrum portraying 3 characters on the spectrum seeking independence. And I was work, but it was a passion project at the same time. So I feel very blessed that I can be combining my passion, my love, my mission on the planet, um, both in Hollywood and also my work with the Miracle Project. We're just completing an original musical that stars an entire diverse cast with and without disabilities. They've written the material, co-written the songs, and it's extraordinary. So I feel really, really blessed to be living my passion, on a daily basis.
Well,
and then expanding the Miracle Project all over the world. Where I've got a friend in from Argentina who wants to start the Miracle Project in Argentina. So it's growing.
wow, that's so cool. Denny wants to say things.
I have a quick question, Elaine. What passion brought you to music, into musicals in your background? Because that's a very, very niche key in its complexity. So what brought you to that?
Well, thank you. What a great question. I was a kid who stayed in my room as a little kid and just choreographed to my mirror. And I've always just loved musicals. And that's my passion. So I created the Miracle Project to be the world that I want to live in, where we sing and dance and act and connect and appreciate each other for our differences, and it's love.
That's great.
Thank you.
I'll have to embed my bucket list with the Miracle Project video when I put up the recap to this, because it was just beyond. I mean, you look at the things people create, and then you walk into a room where people are creating, people from all different ages and backgrounds and whatever are coming together to create art, basically. And everybody was so lovely and welcoming. Fun.
We loved having you. Well, that's it. It's not therapy. It's not using the arts as therapy. It's art. It's creativity. It's joy. It's passion. And I think that's what makes it so different. Yeah.
Well, but we should all have creativity and joy and passion, and we should all love, and I said this earlier, I say this a lot, I believe everyone deserves to be happy in some, if not all, of their life. And if it can't be your main thing, at least make it part of your life. Find the things that get you going and bring you joy and get you excited to get up, because that'll make the mundane things. Now, I'm saying this to a group of people who love what they do in their day job and their passion projects. So obviously present company excluded. But if you're out there thinking, my job's, but I can't leave it, that's fine. Think about what it is you want out of this world, what you want to do to help others, what you want to create. And that's really the first step. So Jeff.
Yeah.
So is your I should ask you the question the same way, but I'm not going to. So is your passion project right now just spreading the word of your survival, your experience, and educating, or is there something else, or is it both, or what? Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So we started. I started writing about all of this, like as I said before, right as I was going to the hospital, and it really was to kind of educate people about what it was really like. I'd had people in my own immediate circle, family, friends, who didn't believe that COVID was serious. They kept on talking about how survivable it was, and I knew from the moment I started seeing serious symptoms that that it was way more than anyone had ever kind of believed it could be. You know, it was, I've been sick with the flu many times. I've never once feared for my life, you know, and that's where I was with this. And it kind of just started taking on a life of its own. And so my wife wrote while I was, you know, out, and that's probably, Deb, where you first started hearing about it. But then when I woke up, it was something that was really important to me as a way of reclaiming my identity. So as a writer, when I woke up, I'd been in a coma for 3 weeks. My muscle mass had wasted away. I lost 45 pounds during those 3 weeks. Most of it muscle. I wish a little more fat, but it was mostly muscle. And it meant that not only could I not walk or breathe properly, but I couldn't hold my hands steady. They were shaking, you know, as if I had some kind of, you know, palsy. Like it was that's how bad it was. I couldn't control them. I couldn't hold anything. And, but I also didn't have the ability to communicate in any way. I had a tracheostomy. So even after I was intubated, I couldn't speak and was really isolated from the world. And in the only way that I know how to make sense of, to communicate, you know, in general, is to write. And the only way I could make sense of everything was to write. And so I asked for my computer. You know, I signed that I wanted my computer. And I remember my nurse said, "You're not going to be able to use that." And I, you know, my wife was on a Zoom call with me, and she said, "He'll figure it out if he wants to." And so they brought me an iPad and my phone and my computer, and I really couldn't use my computer at first. It was just too hard to work on the keys. And I tried to use my phone, and it took me 2 days to type a single sentence. That's how debilitated I was. But I had my wife bring in an ergonomic keyboard for me, and which allowed me to lock my fingers in. And that was the process by which I started to rehabilitate myself. And it was also the process where I started to cope with the trauma early on, because I was kind of like I was writing about things in real time. And I think it allowed me to see what I went through much more immediately than I would have otherwise. It allowed me to accept things. It allowed me to sort of identify things that could change. And again, the most important thing is it let me get back to myself, because when you are in a severe medical situation like that, it doesn't take COVID to begin anything, you lose yourself, you lose your identity, you are dehumanized in every possible way. And this is the way that I came back. And it was by doing the thing that I love most. And so I, you know, want to continue to do that and to kind of share, obviously, the lessons that I learned in that process, but also just continue to kind of work through this whole event.
Well, isn't it wonderful that you have the gift of the words for both reasons? You know, the fact that it helped you heal, but I also talk a lot about, you know, what you do in life, how does it help other people? And it doesn't have to be a thing. It can be informing, entertaining, creating. And people who've gone through challenges and coming out the other side, not just to say, hey, I made it, which is cool, by the way. But to have that extra zest with which you're like, okay, new purpose.
Yeah, and we encountered so many things that were a surprise to us. Things about the way the ICU works, the way intubation works, the way that you experience delirium when you're emerging from comas, all those kinds of things. And there are things that my wife and I both have strong feelings about how those can be addressed in our community. And so that's the other part, is I think we've really, both of us have become activists in our own ways about these issues. And unfortunately, I've had the opportunity through this process of writing the book to start actually affecting some of those changes. So I interviewed the director of the ICU about my treatment at the hospital, which overall was great. But the one area that was really problematic, I thought, was in communications and in managing anxiety. And that's an important thing when you're in a coma or intubated, because when you have anxiety and they try to wean you off of sedation, you panic and you fight the tube, fight the vent, as they call it, and you fight the vent because you're panicking. And every time you do that, it extends the amount of time that you have to be on the vent, which decreases your chance of survival. So there was like a direct correlation between managing anxiety and survival. And so I talked to her about communications and about things that I feel like they could have done differently. And she responded actually by sending me their communications board, which they frankly weren't using, to see if they could improve the way that they communicate with patients and allow them to communicate back.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Okay, where are my gold stars? There.
Amazing.
So moving forward, let's amp up the energy into the positive, optimistic Deb way. But it is, I mean, these are all great stories of affecting change, making the world a better place. But what about fun? What are you all doing for fun these days? Jeff?
So I've been mountain biking. That was the thing that I loved to do before, and I was frankly afraid that I would never be able to do again. My lung capacity is still not back to where it was, but I use that as an excuse to buy an e-bike, which, if you guys don't know, is a pedal-assisted bike. You push the pedal, and it spins you a lot faster than you would ever go yourself. So that's been amazing. I feel like a superhero riding up those hills at speeds that I couldn't have done before. And so even though I'm not fully better, it's something I find myself like wanting to go out and do every day, which you can find any exercise that you want to do every day, like willingly, then that's pretty amazing. So I'm very happy with that.
Do you have a superhero name?
I mean, everybody calls me Mr. Sweat. It's not really it's not really a superhero name, but it's just what I've always been called. It's just sort of, I don't know, for whatever reason, I've been called that since high school, probably.
But that is your name.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wasn't that convenient?
And it worked out super well.
Excellent. So do you feel like you need a cape now?
I'm good. All I need are the glasses, so I can't lose those.
Very good point. So Denny, what have you been doing for fun?
That is a great question. So first thing I want to say, Jeff, I heard your pain and your rehabilitation and everything you went through, and my heart goes out to you throughout that trying time, and my admiration goes out to you for your recovery to this date.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What I am doing for fun right now is my wife and I love to play video games. When we first met, we found a passion. Gamer, I was a gamer, and we decided to play World of Warcraft together. You may or may not have heard of that game, but it's been around for a while, and we enjoyed it. Recently, however, she keeps to it because that's part of her rehabilitation of finding something enjoyable in her life. I'll play every now and then with her. My newest passion is really Netflix. It's a bad passion. It's a very bad passion. but I love it to death. Watching shows, seeing stories, because I'm a storyteller, and I love watching other people's stories and how they come about, and the hero's journey, and if the story doesn't even have an ending, I love it because it's like true life. True life keeps going. There is no end until you die, and it's 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 a passion of mine.
Nice. The more you all talk, the more I feel like I should pat myself on the back for putting you all together today, because you seem very empathetic of each other, but also very like-minded. So, and Elaine, how about you? What are you doing for fun? I mean, do you even have time for fun, or is everything just fun?
No, I must. Well, first of all, when I'm with my clients and my students are speaking, that's my joy. I mean, I get tremendous joy. But my work, I run a non-for-profit organization, so there's a lot of this kind of work, and that's the opposite of fun. So for me, so what I do for fun is I move. I just move. I mean, I go out for walks, and I do business meetings when I can. Talking on the phone. If I'm meeting someone, we go for a walk. For fun, I know it sounds counter, but for me, meditating and learning and listening and growing is really fun. I love. I've actually gotten certified in inner bonding and learning from other, over the pandemic. And but also what I do is, my husband is an incredible cook. So he's just been cooking like wild over the pandemic. So we enjoy almost every night, an hour to an hour and a half meal of just catching up and laughing and eating incredible food. And I've been meeting my girlfriends once the beach opened up. I have two of my BFFs. We meet, and we were socially distanced. We were 6 feet apart. We all wore masks, but we would meet at the beach once a week, and that was amazing. And I take dance class online, on Zoom. I take dance and yoga, and move. I move. That's kind of my thing. Is I move, or I meditate, or I eat. And I hang with my friends on. I'm not a person to do like Zoom. One of some friends are doing like Zoom happy hour. That doesn't really work for me, but.
And you have a superhero name too.
Yes, I do. Actually, I have a cape. If I'd known that question would be asked, I would have brought my cape. But my name is Coach E, and I actually have a cape that says Super Coach E. So
it's great.
Wow, Denny, do you have a superhero name?
I do not, but similar to Jeff, I do have a nickname that I've had forever, and it's Downtown Denny Brown.
There you go.
Yep, it's just stuck around forever.
If it works, it works. Don't knock it. So what is your favorite, and we're going to wrap up soon, but you brought up food. So do you cook at all? Any of you? Any of you? Do you cook, or what do you like to cook, or what do you like to eat?
So because we live in a tumultuous family that has really difficult time planning, we tend to buy good food boxes because it puts it all together for us, and then I'm able to cook and put it out there, because a planner when it comes to food. You give me a business, I can plan that from beginning to end, no problem. You give me a recipe or a bunch of ingredients, and I'm looking at them going, so we're going to have raw carrots tonight. How's that?
I used to be the same way, Danny. I would sit there. I could only see cans. I could never see ingredients.
And Elaine has basically a personal chef.
I literally have a personal gourmet chef. I mean, my husband, he's a therapist, but he also is a cook on a boat, where they travel different parts of the world, and he's a chef, and he was supposed to have gone to Thailand. So when that got canceled, and so for 3 months prior, he was learning how to cook all of these incredible Thai dishes, and I got to try them out. So, and then the trip got canceled, but we kept eating. So, I have to say, we eat all organic and very healthy. And I have a passion for dark chocolate that I'm trying to kick. I'm trying to kick because I have to admit I love it a little too much, but I love dark chocolate. And I just want to say something about this group that you put together. And like, I have this favorite quote that I share. I actually said it in my TEDx talk, but it just seems so perfect for these incredible people. And it's fate is the hand that we're dealt, and destiny is how we play our hand. And how beautiful.
That makes me so happy. That's great.
So beautiful. And I think that's like what everyone on this call, has revealed, that, we may have been dealt severe, really intense challenges, but how we play it by being of service to others and being better humans. And
I love that.
To mirror onto that one of my favorite thought processes is you have two choices when you are met with a disaster of some sort. You can choose to grow, or you can choose to stay. And if you choose to grow, you get the chance of overcoming. But if you choose to stay, you will be there forever. And I love that saying that you brought about, Elaine. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I love both of these. Do you have a quote, Jeff? You probably do. Do you have a favorite?
No, I would say not at the top of my head, because the second you say that, my mind goes blank.
Sorry.
I mean, honestly, half the time, if you ask me what color I like, I'll not remember in the moment. But it is black. It's not a color, I know, but it's okay. For me though, I do think this is really true, and I think that we all, we have very specific things that we've dealt with over the past year and a half. But everybody who's listening has gone through this too, and we all, I think, in certain ways, were presented with circumstances that were impossible, that were really you would not have thought that would be possible to get through some of these things. And I suspect the fact that we're all here means that we did. And I think that's to be applauded. I have found this last year, even prior to being sick, to be pretty enlightening in terms of what is possible when you are really focused on affecting change.
I'm making that a quote because I like it. Yeah, because it's true. You can see what is possible when your interest is in affecting change. Is that pretty much a good paraphrasation? I know that's not.
I like it. Probably sounded better than the way I said it. So good. I'll take it.
Excellent. So what I want to do is, and we have a little bit of time left, but I would like you all to bestow a goal on people who are listening. So something maybe you will do, but that you think would be helpful to other people as we embrace change in the second half of this year. We have good reason to think things are going to be better. So why not go with the optimism? So what is one goal that you would set for others? And as a bonus, make it something you want to do too, because why not, right? Who wants to go? And I'm going to let Jeff think, because
no, I got you. I think you got this one. I would say it would be to finish a creative project. So I think we all have goals related directly to our careers, but I think our careers don't always provide every level of fulfillment. And so I would say, I've talked to, as an author, I've talked to all sorts of writers and reporters and folks like that who talked to me about ideas for books that they had. And the difference between them and me is that I actually started writing it. And that makes just the beginning of something is important. So I'm not going to say finish a book. What I would say is write the first chapter, put something on paper, and then commit to doing that in a set period of time. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be working on your backyard, which is another big goal of mine. Just do something creative that fulfills you. And if it happens to be something that supports your career or supports your ability to make a living, great. But I don't think it's a requirement.
Love it. And I will tell you why I love it for many reasons. But part is later this week, I'm going to announce the Summer Goal Challenge, which I guess I kind of just did, which is for exactly that purpose, to commit to something that you want that is going to fulfill you. And it could be personal, professional, whatever. So I'm thrilled. That is complete. We're like this stuff. Elaine, goal from you?
Yeah, mine would be remember. And it's more about perhaps write down the lessons learned and the resiliency that you found during this 15 months. And remember who you are. Remember who you are when you can't go shopping, when you can't see your best friend, when you can't. Well, what do you do? What can you do? And remember those values all the time. So when you step back into the world, bring yourself.
Love that.
Bring the lessons.
Love it, love it. Okay, Denny, bring us home.
The one thing I would do or ask people to do, and I'm working on myself, is to listen more deeply. Communication is key for everything, and if you cannot listen to what the people are trying to tell you, and if you're constantly trying to answer or to fill or to talk to respond, you're not truly communicating, and you're not going to be able to create that deeper connection with that person. So listen deeply and help them speak. Because if they can speak better, and this is something I got from Oscar Trimboli, we think at 900 words per minute, we listen at 100 words per minute, and we talk at 100 words per minute. Those are vast differences in what we do. So when we speak, we're always stumbling over our words. So the whole objective of the listener is to help them get those words out and to hear that deeper meaning.
Love it.
That's great.
Well, you all have been awesome party guests. Real quickly, tell people where they can find you, Denny.
You can find me in Ottawa and Gatineau, woo, in here in Canada. But RamsayBrownMedia.ca is our website, and my other website is connectottawa.net.
Excellent. And Elaine, where can people find you?
You can email me at coache@coacheproductions.com, or you can learn about my work through themiracleproject.org.
Wonderful. And Jeff?
Hey, well, you can find me certainly at sweatandco.com, which is my agency's website. You can also find my author page at jeffsweatbooks.com, and on both Facebook and Instagram as Jeff Sweat Books. Also Twitter too, but I don't go there because it's Twitter. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, Elaine, Denny, for helping me ring in mid-year. I'm Debra Eckerling. You can find me at the Deb Method everywhere. If you need some help with your goals, you can go to yourgoalguidebook.com and learn more about this little thing, my beautiful award-winning book. And also you can go to thedebmethod.com/blog for the recaps on this and my other fun, exciting Goal Chat lives. Thank you all again, Jeff, Elaine, and Denny, for joining me. Thank you all who are watching or listening. As we approach the rest of the year, let's just, enjoy, embrace, make changes. I'm trying to put everybody's thing in together. Listen, and learn.
Thank you, Deb.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much, everybody. Happy mid-year. Keep going.
Happy
And
Everybody.
you can do it.
All right. Take care.